Hi everybody, welcome back to MJ Homestead. What we want to do today is kind of change gears a little bit from what we had been doing. Up till now, we've been doing just mainly videos on our plans for our homestead here, and building projects, things like that. Mary and I have been wanting to do some disaster preparedness for quite a while now. When we lived in town, we wanted to do it also. When we lived in town, we wanted to more like do a kind of a bug out scenario, so there wouldn't be a whole lot of stocking supplies, things like that. But since we're out here now, I think a bugging in sort of a situation would be best for us. Since we're a little bit out of the urban environment, that'd be a difficult environment to be in, and things like that. So we'd do more of like stocking food and supplies and stuff like that. And we didn't really know how to start or anything. We had watched some YouTube videos. Both of us have watched some YouTube videos. But whether any of the stuff that the people say on the videos work for you or not specifically, I guess, we weren't quite sure where to start or what to do. So what we ended up doing was the person that we know personally that knows the most about this subject is Mary's sister, Terry. So we brought her on the show today, or on the channel today. We don't really have our own show, but on the channel today.
Someday.
But yeah, this whole disaster preparedness thing is, we feel, pretty important. Just because you never know what series of events could take place where maybe you can't get to a store, maybe you can't get home from work. I mean, what do you do in that situation? It's good to have at least a plan and maybe some supplies and things like that, ranging from whether you have a tornado run through your neighborhood and knock your power poles down for a week, or whether one of those electronic magnetic, whatever those things are called,
EMPs.
Pulse. Yeah, North Korea sets off something in our atmosphere and shuts everything down as we know it, pretty much, and that would last a lot longer. How to prepare for those types of things. So that's why we invited you here today. Thanks for being here today, too.
Yes,
Appreciate
thank you.
it.
Thank you. Yeah.
But we prepared a series of questions, I guess, to ask her, and we tried to generalize the questions so that maybe questions that people that maybe you guys would have, if you were going to ask them, kind of a Q&A sort of a thing. So we're going to go on that format.
Yeah, and we'll put it out there too that this is our beliefs, and this is kind of what we would like to be prepared for. If you're not prepared to do this, go ahead and turn it off right now and just catch us on the next video. If you are, somewhat curious about this, and you've been hearing about these EMPs on, national news and everything, and you're just like, I'm a little bit curious about that, and we're not going to go into full detail of what it is or anything like that. We're just going to kind of touch base on, if it does ever happen, what do we do? It's more of the mindset of hope for the best, prepare for the worst type thing. So again, if it's something that interests you, grab your cup of coffee, sit down, and hopefully we'll maybe answer some questions for you. If it's not something that you're interested, like I said, catch us on the next one. So we're just going to kind of jump in on this. Terry, can you give us a little bit of, I guess, information on EMPs? A
Sure.
little bit.
Yep, just a little bit. I have been interested in self-sufficiency for quite a few years, and while reading through some articles in Mother Earth News and things like that, I kept coming across these information on EMP. So I did some research, found out that the government has known about it for a very long time. They haven't really told anybody about it. Why or why not, who knows. But there was an actual commission of a report done in the year 2008. The actual profile of it is about this thick, about 3-4 inches thick. This is just a brief piece here. So if you want to know more, all you have to do is Google it. It's right there on there. But once I seen that, I realized that just simple homesteading wasn't probably going to be enough. I need to do a little bit more to prepare. I always like to say, I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Exactly.
Just very self-sufficient that way.
Exactly.
And so that's kind of the background how I got involved in this. And when it hit mainstream media a couple weeks ago about North Korea, it is entirely possible. It's not that the nuclear fallout would kill Americans, it's what they can do with a very small warhead detonated above the atmosphere, which would fry all the electrical appliances, everything.
And America
That's
is
the
so
problem.
technology anymore. You know, we have our cell phones, we have our computers in our vehicles. I mean,
Right.
everything is all electrical.
It is, and we didn't harden anything off. Hardening means that you protect it against that electric surge. Nothing's really hardened off. We're kind of living in a house of cards, and when one thing falls, the electricity, then it's just a domino effect after that. You may or may not have heard on the news. The news has stated that up to 90% of Americans, they figure, would be dead within a year, and people have a hard time wrapping their head around that. But when you think about how many tens of thousands of people are in an airplane, how many people are in hospitals, medications, things like that, that's where it runs into some serious
And we're not
damage.
talking just because of, like, for example, that the 90% of Americans that would be dead. We're not talking just because this EMP strikes. We're talking about because of the fact they're not prepared. You know, the average human, and I'm not a nurse or anything like that, how long can an average human survive without food, without water?
Right. Days
You know,
or weeks without food.
Days or weeks without
water.
food, days or weeks without water, and you're done. I mean, if you're not prepared. So this is why we wanted to kind of touch on this, and see, you know, what we can do, and hopefully, you know, something that you guys can do to maybe be prepared a little bit. And we're not talking, you know, we're talking EMP right now, but this could go for, you know, be prepared for an EMP, and you're prepared for anything. You know, be prepared for the worst, and you can last out a 4-week blizzard. You can last out a flood. You can last out a hurricane. Things like that. So we're giving you the most extreme part, and it's going to carry you through just about anything.
Right.
Okay? So let's jump into here as far as stockpiling food. What is the most important thing to have first?
As far as stockpiling food, you want something that is nutritionally good for you right off the bat. Beans and rice have the protein and the carbohydrates that you need to make a basis or a foundation for a meal. It's a stable product. You can package it so that it can last up to 20, 25 years. That way it's always there. It lasts a long time. It doesn't take up a lot of space. It's nutritionally correct, and that would be the first place to start when it comes to food, is your staples, beans and rice.
Okay. How about when you go, ooh,
Right?
beans and rice? Ugh.
Right?
No way in heck am I going to be able to eat beans and rice for days upon days upon days.
Right, and nobody can. That's actually called food fatigue, when you eat the same thing over and over and over to the point that you just can't even stomach it anymore. So the beans and rice is a foundation. You're going to do things to that, adding some other protein to it, some other meat source that you have, seasonings, bouillon cubes can be added to it, vegetables. So you're going to make it more like a stew, and that's going to help change up the variety a little bit and make it more palatable for a longer time. And that's not going to be your only food source, but if you're looking to start somewhere, that's the best place to start, because again, the proteins and carbohydrates, it's a complete meal. You see it served in third world countries when UNICEF and things like that go in. You see them scooping out that porridge stuff. It's beans and rice.
Okay, so if you were to say want to start doing some disaster preparedness types of things, I mean, people who are watching today, maybe someone living in a 2-bedroom apartment, and they're kind of limited space. How much space do you need to set aside, you know, to have a decent storage, something that would be workable?
Right. Very good question. Depends on a lot of different variables, how many people are in the house, how much food you want to store. But basically, going back to the beans and rice again, a 5-gallon pail can have up to 250 servings of rice and up to 250 servings of beans. So in 2 5-gallon buckets. So if you have a broom closet or space in your closet, some people store under the bed. That's unused space there. You just get those tubs, you can store food there. So a small amount of space the size of a closet should be able to get an average family of 3 to 4 through at least 1 to 2 months to start with, based on, you know, 5-gallon buckets, your water supplies, and then some things to add to that.
Okay. So, as far as foods, we covered rice and beans. We covered things to, you know, kind of supplement them. What other foods would be, you know, probably a good idea to say, well, you know, this food I can't live without?
Oh, comfort foods. Yes, comfort foods. very, very important, not only for food, but for mental health as well. A lot of different companies, and we're not advocating or advertising for any specific company. Those are the companies that I
We're not affiliated with any of these companies that
Right. So maybe
talk
let's leave it
about.
with this. If you go online and look for food preparedness, you will find a host of companies that supply dehydrated and freeze-dried foods that you can add to your storage to supplement that basic foundation. Comfort foods, they have pudding mixes, and they have cakes, hard candies, anything that you feel that would be important to have to supplement that would be a good idea to have on hand.
So what do you think, in your opinion or expertise,
I don't know about
how
expertise,
much, well, you're more experienced than we are.
Yeah.
So in your experience, how much is too much? When is it a time to say, man, am I going overboard? It's time to get the tinfoil hats
Right.
type thing, you
or
know?
the fedora.
Oh, the fedora.
Yeah, I have a
Tinfoil
fedora because, tinfoil, you don't want to be too paranoid. And you generally do reach a point. At some point, you have to stop and say, okay, when is enough enough? You can never have enough, but it's very important to remember that. Stick to one motto. I live for today and prepare for tomorrow. I don't stop doing things that I want to do today because I don't want to spend the money on it because I want more foodstuffs or I want more ammunition or I want more of this or that. You still have to live today. So basically starting off slow is the best way. You don't want to buy, 500,000 servings of rice and beans and nothing else. You want to figure out a menu, figure out what you want to eat and what you need for your household for 4 weeks. 1 month at a time. That way you have a complete supply of things that you need for a month, and then you just continue to add to that. Generally, a year's worth is what the research I've done, a year's worth of supplies or foods or whatever items you need for a year. Then after that, you can kind of maybe take a step back a little bit, but then you're prepared.
Okay, so let's say you did all that. You set up a menu plan, for the average month, and you basically just multiply it out times 12 in order to get your stock, right? That's what you're saying.
Yep.
So let's say you've done all that, and you feel that you're prepared for about a year for about anything, any situation that you would have. You have ammunition, you have food and water, you have your medications, you have all the stuff that you set aside. But you won't. When the disaster happens, you won't necessarily be at home. So a lot of people recommend getting like a get home bag or something like that with supplies in it. What would you suggest for a starter get home bag for anybody out there who would think
Sure.
about that if you have to travel 20 miles or 30 miles or something like that to get home?
Right. My get home bag has a variety of things in it, but primarily the first is water filtration. You can go days and weeks without food, but only about 3 days without water before your system starts shutting down, acting weird, getting dehydrated, things like that. So a good water filter is imperative. Foodstuffs you can get even at stores in the camping section. You can buy these energy bars which have 3,000 calories in it, and that's a good thing to have in there, so you have a food source as well. Shelter, having a tarp, fire starter, of course, a good knife to make sure that you can even, like for shavings for fire starter, you want to take care of your basic essentials, a way to have water, some sort of food, some sort of shelter, and then some sort of protection. For a foundation, after that is just extras. They talk about like antidiarrheals, aspirin, bandages for blisters, so it can get a little bit more, but if you're looking for a basic starter, food, water, shelter, and protection.
And we're going to go through and do a section here of, busting out, because we purchased some backpacks, just regular backpacks from Walmart, $7 on sale. We're going to kind of go through and say, okay, we'll maybe look at your get home bag or, to go bag or whatever, and kind of show some of the items that you have in there. And it might not, it's not for everybody. Maybe
Right.
you live, in town and you work in town, and it's only going to take you 20 minutes to get home. On the other case in our case where we live in a rural setting, it may take us 2-3 days to get home.
Right.
So we'll kind of touch on that as well. We'll kind of take a peek into your get home bag and go through that and see what's all in there. And then we're also going to kind of give a demonstration of the beans and rice, how to store it, how to pack it. And by all means, this is not the be-all, end-all, this is the way you do it type of thing. This is the way that Terry has found that works for her. You can emulate that or copy that in your situation. If you find something better that works better for your family, you know, even better. You know, you just gotta, it's basically
Starting
kind
point.
of doing the research and seeing what works for you
Right.
and your family
Yep.
type thing.
Yep. This is just a starting point. There's so many resources available online, YouTube videos, and research that you can do. This is just to start if you're interested and curious to get you started, and then you can take it and run with it from there.
It happens. You're going, oh my God, I need to get home. You get home. Your family members, you know, you've made your plan. The family members that you're willing to take in and, you know, you've planned for, get there. How do you make people think? Because at some point, people are going to realize what's happening and they're going to start looking for food. They're going to start going, oh my gosh, panic mode is setting in. How do you make people think that you're not at home when you really are? Is there any way to kind of do that? Or, I mean,
It's a tough one.
what do you do?
Once people
Yeah.
start hunting, because they're gonna once they run
Yeah.
out of supplies, they're gonna start
Right.
hunting, and most they're gonna want to scavenge from people's houses and things and steal
Right,
things
right.
from you.
Fortifying your location is so, it needs to be so individually tailored. It's hard to have a specific answer. What I might be able to tell a little bit better is what not to do. Definitely smoke is a signal, pun intended.
Smoke signal, here
right,
I am.
Right, to draw people to you. The cooking of food can be tricky as well because that scent will carry for a long time. So a couple things that you can do is basically not store all of your goods in one area. Have caches in a couple different areas. That way if somebody does come in, maybe take you by surprise, want your stuff, they can't get all of it at one time. You have some other outlying areas where you put some things. Try to keep your homestead not looking very pristine, and possibly even that it has been looted already. Keeping it up to up to snuff and everything looks good, and you've
Keeping
got
the grass mowed.
right, you've got plenty of time to mow your grass and take care of weeds and things like that. Then it's going to look more like an occupied home. You don't want to stand out in any way, shape, or form. You want people to just pass on by, think the home has already been looted. That there's nothing there we're stopping for. They may poke around a little bit, but if they can't find or see anything. So security is really tricky because it just depends on your location. It depends on how many people you have in your group. It depends on what you may or may not be defending. When is the point, if people come to your place and are just basically going to overrun you, when do you cut and run? How long do you stay for what you have? So that's more of a little individual, and as people who are interested do a little more research, you'll have better ideas. Home security tripwires, early warning systems, dogs, or whatever you want to use to warn you if people that are coming. So security is more of a individualized, but those are just a couple things. Don't build a big old fire and cook bacon frequently like that. That'll get me coming.
Yeah, bacon would get me
Bacon.
coming anywhere.
I know, you're talking bacon, I'm there. So, that for security.
Okay. So, say it happens
Okay.
and you're stuck at home. Or, excuse me, stuck at work. You're at work. Travel. You know you got to get home. You grab your to-go bag. How do you blend in? What do you do first? Do you take a trip to the grocery store and because you know what's happened?
Right.
You've checked your phone. There's no service. You've tried to start your car. It's not starting.
Right.
There's no lights. There's nothing. Everybody's kind of everything's stopped.
Right. Very good question. Actually, up until the mainstream media threw the EMP out there, those that were already aware of the possibility and the ramifications pretty much had a plan in place. But now that more people know, you really need to be a little bit careful. First thing you need to do is decide which route you're going to take. Research has shown that generally it'll take about 3 days before the general population realizes what happens. You need to get where you need to be within about 2 to 3 days. You still want to be very discreet, but if you live far away, you can use things like a bicycle. They actually have collapsible bicycles that fold into...
I've actually been trying to possibly looking into that because I have plantar fasciitis in my feet. It's going to take me, I mean, we live, roughly 26 miles from home, from town. So, I mean, it would take me with my feet, if anybody's had plantar fasciitis, knows that you're on your feet for too long and you just want to sit down and bawl. So, for me, a collapsible bike may be, the answer to that. It's going to get me where I need to go fast,
Right.
and I'm not going to be on my feet.
Right, yep. They have all sorts of different things. They have a classic bike. They have a battery-operated bike that you barely pedal.
Oh, even better.
Right. You pedal and it generates electricity, or it generates into the battery, which can let you coast quite a bit as well. Skateboards. I've heard about people putting skateboards in their vehicles so they have a little bit faster. You want to generally stay out of the line of sight of as many people as possible. You just want to get your bag, get going. If you can stop at a store, a lot of people advocate having some cash on hand because store owners may or may not know or realize what's happening. And you got a $100 bill and you're only buying $50 worth of groceries, but you can carry that much. And they're like, oh, it's like, no, keep the change because dollars aren't going to matter anyhow. So a couple different things, but generally get out and get to your location as quickly as possible before the general population figure out what happened, and then they want your bike, and they want your skateboard, and they want your backpack. Travel by night maybe, just stick to the tree line. Try not to stay on the main road in any way because there's going to be stranded vehicles, so there's going to be a lot of people just milling around trying to get home, and they're getting desperate. So get to where you need to be as quick as you can.
Yeah, as far as medications and things like that, I know all medication has they have expiration dates and whatever. So at any given time, how much of that should you keep on hand, like aspirin and painkillers or antidiarrheals or any of that kind of stuff?
Vitamins and things like that. Keep a good stock as much as you can. I generally try and keep as much as I can use in a year, plus some, depending on how many family members are going to be there. I don't mind maybe even losing $15, $20 a year on vitamins that have way past their expiration date. Expiration dates, and this is not advocating any kind of medical training or anything like that. This is purely on you. But expiration dates are just general guidelines. Medications you have to be a little more tricky because they not only lose their potency, but the potency can change, so you have to be careful with that. But keep enough on hand through the expiration date. If you buy 4 bottles of vitamins, don't buy them all at the same time because they all pretty much came from the same case, which means it's the same expiration date. So buy 2 bottles, and then next time you go grocery shopping, grab 2 more. It's going to be a different lot, and you'll have a different expiration date.
I was just going to say,
longer.
Check your lot numbers on them to see,
exactly.
Make sure that they're different.
Yep, expiration dates, very, very important. Another thing that has been found out through research, and do your own research on this as well, but fish antibiotics are the same type and usually the same amount as human antibiotics. So you can also go online and make some purchases and have antibiotics as well that were used. They're human grade, they're just for animals instead of people, and so they're sold over the counter in your pet stores and Walmart and things like that. But again, be very, very careful about drug interactions that you may have, knowing that this is for fish, not for people. But those things are out there. Just do your research because you can find medications, and things that can be useful in a situation, survival situation.
What would somebody Google with that? You're getting on Google. Do you just put like fish anti-whatevers?
Yep, there's some different websites. Once, if you're interested and you start looking into the websites and the information as far as survival preparedness, you're going to find links to those studies done by actual doctors and nurses and find that information, and you can go from there.
And be vigilant. Not everything on the internet is the truth.
Right.
So, I mean, double check your facts.
There's a lot
double check.
Yep, and there's a lot of scams out there. There's a lot of people that'll sell you something that, that sounds like it'd be a great idea, but you need to do your research.
Okay. So, are there any, we kind of went through some questions that we had, just kind of off the top of our head. Can you think of anything that us being novices didn't ask you that, maybe we should know about?
Well, that would have been a good question. Let me know ahead of time.
We like surprises.
Right, surprise. Trying to think. Not really. Just make sure that you have your water filtration. That's paramount because.
And you can find that like online as well. Just water filtration.
Water
Google
filtration, home security. Probably the biggest thing, so you don't spend or waste a lot of money, is the food stuff. Sit down and plan your menu. It takes time, and it takes some organizational skills, and you really have to set aside. But winter's coming. We talk about that in the homestead. All that good stuff is done during the wintertime. figure out what your menu is, figure out what you need, and then buy to that menu. Pick up things, even if you're not ready to go whole hog into it. You see a sale at the store, pick up a couple extra cans of whatever it is. Canned foods, dry goods, anything a little bit extra. Anything on sale. Hard candies are important as well. Morale and just to have around. After Christmas, after Halloween, that stuff is on sale like crazy, so try and get some of that.
Right.
Medical preps, having bandages and splints and things like that would be helpful as well.
One of the most difficult things would be for me is prioritizing that kind of stuff, because when it comes down to the point where everything's important and you need everything, what do you buy first? I mean, if you listen to a lot of the gun channels that I watch, have made kind of this exact same video, preparedness videos or whatever, and the guy will come right out and say, you need to, in order to survive an apocalypse or something like that, you need 2 packs of Moro-chan noodles and 85,000 rounds of ammunition. That's what you need, and that'll work great,
Right?
Because you just hunt animals at that point, and not like nobody else will be doing that. Or
Right,
something,
exactly. It's not happening everywhere.
Right.
True. And it is hard to prioritize. That's why you go for the basic 4 again: food, water, shelter, and protection or security. You don't buy 52,000 rounds of bullets and nothing else. You buy a little bit of food, you buy a little bit of ammo, a little bit of water filtration or water jugs or whichever. You do a little bit of each for what you think you need for a month. Then you go to 2 months, and then 3 months. You build on the foundation. That way you're not stuck with 50,000 rounds of ammo
And 2
and
cups
no
of
water.
noodles.
Right, and 2 packs of noodles and no water because you went whole hog over here. So getting started can sometimes really be overwhelming. It really can, and I went through it too. But I just picked things up. I figured out what I needed for 1 month, and then I didn't worry about the rest. It's like, you know what, this is going to happen, it's going to happen. I'm doing the best that I can. And again, you're living for today and preparing for tomorrow. You're not going to take every penny out of the bank and go buy a bunch of foodstuffs and then not have any money for vacation next year. You still have to understand that could
You still
happen.
got a life to live.
Yeah,
and
that
not
could
get-
happen, but this is it. So start a month at a time. If you've got enough ammo that you're comfortable with for now, you can never have enough, right? But then you're going to focus on food and water, and then go from there.
It's amazing how inexpensive a lot of this stuff is too. If you think of what a normal meal costs for an average family, even if you just order a pizza, you're spending $50-$60 on a pizza. I mean, but when you're going with your prepping meals and things, you can have a meal for less than $1 that can feed everyone in your house. I mean, you're stepping down on quality a lot, and stuff that you'd actually enjoy. But at that point, you have to have it. So it probably wouldn't even take that long to stock. Enough food for a week or a week and a half or something. Even when you just first start, it seems like it to me.
Yeah, that's very true. There's behind the camera, there's 100 pounds of foodstuffs. There's 50 pounds of rice and a 50-pound bag of beans, all for $50. And that right there is going to be well over 500 servings, well over that. And so if you just set aside even $20 a payday, that's my preparedness fund, and I'm going to do, this is what I know I need. I need some pancake mix or some biscuit mix. Then that's what I'm going to get. And then that way you do a little bit at a time. And it goes a lot farther that way too.
Yeah.
It's not cheese pizza. It's not supreme pizza. It's beans and rice. But beans and rice will allow you to survive.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's gonna keep you alive. So
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of beans and rice. I'm just
Me
like
neither.
beans and rice.
I know, right?
Ugh.
But when
But
you're hungry, or
if
your
it comes
children are
down
hungry,
to my kids eating and me eating and surviving, I'll eat anything. I'll walk outside and eat a gopher if that's what's going to keep my kids and my family safe.
And after you just had to kill your neighbor, it puts things into perspective, and you don't
That's
you don't
right.
whine so much.
Things are okay,
Sorry, neighbor.
Sorry, neighbor. But that also comes to another point. You're sitting there and you've prepared, your neighbor hasn't. What do? They come knocking on your door and say, I'm hungry. My child is starving. I don't know what to do. It's a moral, to me, that's a huge moral dilemma. I mean, you and I were taught from that big, you help somebody in need.
You've also been taught you take care of family.
Exactly. Family comes first.
Right.
And to me, I I don't know. I think I'm going to have to, and God forbid this ever does really happen. We're just talking, you know, if it does. If this happens, honestly, I don't know what I would do. If somebody came to my door and there was a child there starving to death, I don't know if I could turn them away. I think, you know, I would have to preserve what I have in our family, but that's a moral dilemma that people are gonna have.
Sure.
You know, it's
And I have no answer for that one.
I don't think anybody really does.
No, nobody does.
Until you're in that situation,
right.
you are not gonna know how you're going to handle that.
No, it's
At all.
gonna end up laying out how it lays out.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know what situations are gonna, you know, come up or anything like that. You don't know how you're gonna handle it when they do. You should, I suppose, just do your best at every single one and try.
Protect your family
You know, 'cause
and
you're in a
do
situation
your
you've never been in
best.
before. I mean, survival isn't really something that people do now. You just
Not in America.
it's easy.
Not in America.
Yeah, not in America. Yeah,
Right.
it's easy.
Other
Everything.
countries, they face decisions like this, and that's why I think it's so foreign to Americans in general, because we haven't had to face anything like that. We haven't had to deal with anything like that. But again, it's a house of cards that could tumble down at any given time, and that's where surviving comes into play, because most people, this isn't even on their radar. Not even close.
And it should be. It really should be. Like I was saying, I was kind of you've been sending me some things on these EMPs and stuff like that, and I happened to share it with a lady at work, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you're scaring me."
It is scary.
You should be scared a little bit. I mean, not to the extent of, "Oh my God, I need to go
Right.
do
No.
this now."
dig a bunker.
Dig a bunker, and yeah, I mean, you don't need to go to that extreme, but have it in the forefront of your head. Live your life, but be aware of it. Be prepared. Have a plan.
And it can be used every day too. Like we're talking now, this is more focused on a catastrophic event, but losing your job can be a catastrophic event.
Absolutely.
And if you're spending $400 on groceries, but you've prepared, you have food in the house, and that $400 can go to something else. Atlas had that blizzard. Some folks in South Dakota were without power for 6 weeks. Most of us, general population, I should say, not most folks have maybe 4 or 5 days worth of food in their cupboard. So even though this is more focused on a long-term catastrophe, you can still use it in your everyday life. I mean,
Right.
it only makes sense to have enough food and water. Even the government tells you, you know, to have some preparations in place. It goes more than just a winter survival kit in your car.
Yeah, because we're always told, you know, have a
Right.
blanket, have, you know, gloves, have
Right.
this, have that.
Yeah.
You know,
Take that nugget of information and expand it to your family, to your home, to your food, to your security. Then you're prepared for anything.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Well, we're going to go ahead and show you how to, like she said, we have like, what did you say, 100
100 pounds.
pounds of beans and rice, and we are going to actually show you Terry's method of storing it, how to do it. She's going to do a demo for us, and then we're also going to take a sneak peek inside of her get home bag. Now, she's a very big dog person. She does a lot of shows, and she does very well in them, and her dogs mean everything to her. They are a part of the family, which ours are too. So when we're talking about your preparedness, we're not just talking, I mean, everybody's got dogs. Everybody's got, you know,
Well, you should.
cats. Yeah, that's right. Everybody should have a dog. But dogs, cats, you know, fish, whatever. We're not just talking about being prepared for yourself.
Right.
You know, she asked me this morning, how much dog food do you have?
A bag.
I've got
of a
a
bag.
quarter of a bag in the thing over. I didn't think about that. I was thinking of, okay, we need people food,
Right.
you know, and I that didn't even cross my mind as like, oh, yeah, they're gonna need to eat too, you know.
Right.
So those are some things too that we're gonna look at. But she's also has a to go bag for her dog because her dogs are with her a lot of the times,
Right.
and she's not gonna leave them behind,
Nope.
you know. So we're going to go through that. So as of right now, we'll kind of stop it here, and we'll be back with you with those demos. So thanks for watching.